Gonna do. We're gonna do that too. But before, okay. So, good morning, everyone. For those of you that are not here, and there are a lot of them. Okay, we're going to finish the bottom of the sleeve. I don't have copies, but this is a copy of it. We're going to be using only this section. I'm sorry, the number of it, because it's from the book with hardcover. If you have the other book, I'm sure this page is in a different place. Okay, but you can have the title of it. It's on chapter 21. Those are for those of you that will forget what I'm done. When Chris shows up, I'm going to ask him to replace the toner. Maybe I can make copies of this. So what we did not do yesterday was round the bottom of the sleeve. Okay, so I am actually going to do that, taking into consideration the cuff of the sleeve. Okay, so we're going to make a cuff of 3 inches. Okay, but we usually don't have your sleeve exactly the same size on it. You always have your sleeve a little bit longer, so it will stay, huh?
It's this page, right?
Yeah, it's this in the bottom. You have it?
Yeah, we have it.
Oh, so they all shut up. Okay,
Oh,
so
I know.
it's on your handout.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So you
I
did a good job.
make sure that, yeah,
You did a good job.
I know.
We're proud of you.
Thank you. It is on your handout.
You second
Okay.
guessed yourself.
All right. So if our cuff is 3 inches, we're not going to make the sleeve 3 inches shorter. We're actually going to make it 2 inches shorter. And we're going to have that extra 1 inch for that bubbleness comfort on it. Does that make sense? All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll make 2 inches shorter. Since my ruler is 2 inches, I just place it on the line. And I don't have a pencil. Thank you. I'm going to make that 2 inches shorter. Okay? Now where the cut of the slit for the placket is going to stay in the same place. So let me ask you this, because if we decide to do the oversized shirt, we're going to have to redo the sleeve. But if we are keeping it as it is, we can go ahead and finish the whole sleeve, cuffs, and everything else. So do you guys want to do the oversized shirt, or you want to keep this one as is? Lazy guys. Oh my God, you're so transparent. All right. Am I lying? No. Okay. So let's make a cuff. Okay. So we said that the cuff is going to be 3 inches. We are actually going to cut it twice as wide, because when we sew it, we're going to fold it in half like we did the waistband on the skirt. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right. So the size of your cuff is going to be 9 inches, but we're going to give it a 1 inch extension to be able to overlap and have the button and the buttonhole, right? So 9 plus 1, 10. 3 twice, 6. So we're going to make a rectangle of 10 by 6. Does that make sense? Okay. So should we have the grain line following the length of the sleeve? What do you guys think? So we're making the cuff first because I want to decide how wide is going to be the sleeve at the bottom. Okay? So that's the reason why I'm doing that. So do you guys think that the cuff should follow the same grain line as the length of the sleeve? It should go across. Thank you very much. I know, tricky question. Why does it have to go across? What happens on the grain line? Doesn't stretch, right? So your cuffs will not be stretching, and that's the reason why you do that. So for your cuff, instead of making it this way, we're going to make it this way. Okay? I'm going to make a grain line. We are going to make a line here. What is the width of our cuff? We said 6 inches, correct?
Yes.
So we did 6 inches. So I'm going to make a line right here that is going to measure 6 inches up to here. And since it is going to be folded in half, I'm going to give it a notch right in the center. Does that make sense? I'm going to make it easier for you guys when you sew. Morning. Feeling better?
Yes.
Good. All right. So, we said that the cuff is going to measure 10, right? What we also said that we're going to have 1 inch overlap. So we're going to give it a notch at the 1 inch there. Does that make sense? So we're going to now make the line. Now, for those of you that are still making the same mistake that I keep putting in your patterns, notice that when I'm drawing the lines, I'm extending it outside of the shape of it, right? Because my seams should go all the way to the edge of the paper. So there is no work in progress in this. This is just the pattern of it. So now I'm going to give it 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this is the pattern finished. Just to remind you guys, whenever you transfer a notch from the seam into the seam allowance, you need to place it at 90 degrees from the seam. I keep grading that for all of you. Okay? And then, very important, we need to label it correctly, right? So we're gonna call this shirt cuff, size 8, in your name. Okay? Any questions on this? So your cuff is ready. So after we finish with this from here to here should measure 9 inches. That 1 inch that we talked about is actually going to be the placket. Okay? So let's do the bottom because we need to make the curve right here that I lied before that I didn't give you a copy, but I did give you one. I'm going to extend the line bigger, and I am right here on page 444 in figure 2. So square a line from the center grain line touching the corners of the right side of the sleeve, continue to the back, eliminates the elbow dart. We did that already. Okay, so from A to B should be 1/2 of the bicep less 1 inch. Now, let's see. The bicep is this measurement. So 1/2 of the bicep will be right here. Measures 10 and 1/8. Less 1 inch should measure 9 and 1/8. Except that this is for the dartless sleeve, and this one was the one that we actually this is a different sleeve than this one. This is a more fitted sleeve. Okay, so repeat to be able to see. Okay, hemline shape. This is really where we need to focus. Hemline shape. So E to F is the center to the grain line mark. Remember we measured from here to here? we need to have this in the center, right? So it measures 5.5, half of that, it would be 2 3/4. I'm not gonna make you suffer today, okay? Even though math should not be a suffering technique. But if I ever want to torture you, I know how to do it. So this is where this should be, not here. Okay? We're all okay so far? All right. So F to G, it should be 3/4 of an inch square down from F. This is F. So from here down, we're going to square it down 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to write here 3/4 just in case. Okay? And then G to H should measure 2.5 inches. Cross mark the slit for the placket and entry. Draw the hemline curve from EG to D as illustrated. So from here to here, it should be 2.5. To me, it looks very small. So I'm gonna do 3, okay? Move this a little bit so I can have room. I'm gonna do 3 here. And this is gonna be the cut that we're gonna do on the sleeve to actually have the opening here. Okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get rulers and I'm gonna blend in from here. And look at what I'm gonna do. It sounds a little weird, but if you see, the line should come straight from here and down. So I'm going to place the hip ruler like this, and I'm gonna make the line, but not complete. Then I'm gonna flip the ruler, and I'm gonna blend it in into that straight line. Pretty? And then I'm going to do the opposite, but to this point. We might need to adjust this because now we need to measure this size. So we're going to do now, I think in the handout I gave you the pleats. How to make the pleats at the bottom of the sleeve. Right? So, from here to here, we're gonna start by having 1 inch. And these pleats are going to be 1.25 inches deep. So from here, I'm gonna measure 1.25. So this is gonna be a pleat that goes from here to here. The space in between the pleat is 3/4. I'm gonna write them down here. 1.25, 3/4, and then here is the next pleat, which is also again 1.25. And this pleat again goes in that direction. So now we need to measure from edge to edge, skipping the depth of the pleats. Does that make sense? And that should add 9. If it doesn't add 9, we need to adjust it evenly on both sides. Okay? So I'm going to measure, let's use this short one because it doesn't get stuck in there. So this is going to be the easiest way to actually measure since it's a curve. I'm going to come from here to the first notch, and I have 3 7/8. I'm going to skip to 3 7/8 and continue measuring. So I have 4 5/8, and then I skip 4 5/8. It's right here, and then I measure all the way to the end, and I have 8.5. So 9 minus 8.5, half an inch. Now we need to split it evenly on both sides. So we need to add a quarter to each side. And our sleeve is finished. Now, I have a little problem here because this line is straight, so I have no problem with that. But this one is curved, okay, up to the previous point. So now I need to change the curve to that extended quarter. I'm actually surprised that it's almost the right size. Okay, so I've modified this curve, and now I'm going to connect it from here to the underarm. And this is not going to be the line because we added a quarter of an inch, but not on the underarm. And to here. So let me tell you a secret. Your sleeve is finished. Cool? But we're missing a couple of things. So we need to have, I don't have the shirt here. Anybody's wearing a shirt, a button-down shirt with a sleeve?
I don't have a sleeve.
You don't have a sleeve, you have
It's
short sleeve?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's pause it